Thanks to all of you that have clicked on this video to watch this Q&A. Hashtag Jake the Snake is the topic today, one of my favorites of all time, and it gives me great pleasure to see him finally get his rightful place in the WWE Hall of Fame, being a part of this 2014 class. It's already shaping up to be a great Hall of Fame class, no question about it. If you want to take part in future OTR Central Q&As, here's what you do. You go to Twitter, tweet your questions using the subject hashtag, whatever it is for that next Q&A. Tweet those questions to Add Off the Rope Show. That's this show's Twitter handle. Again, Add Off the Rope Show. The subject for next week's Q&A is going to be hashtag Elimination Chamber. So your questions pertaining to Elimination Chambers, past, present, future, whatever. Doesn't matter. Just make sure you ask the question and use that hashtag and start submitting your questions Monday after Raw. Again, Monday after Raw. Now let's get started on this one. At James the Thunder asks, let me pull it up here. Do you think Jake should have won a title in WWE? Surely they could have fitted in during Honky Tonk Man's reign or something like that. Yes, they should have. I don't know if it necessarily needed to be the world title, but the fact he never even held a tag team title or an IC title seems to be a disgrace and a shame. At Amadou_Barry10, if you were the Booker back in his prime, how many times would you have given him a run with the WWF's championship? World Championship, I don't know if he ever really needed to. He had Hogan, he had Savage, he had freaking Ultimate Warrior. You didn't really need to have Jake. Maybe you could have worked in one transitional reign to take the belt from Hogan to Savage, or from Savage back to Hogan, or from Hogan to Warrior. You know, maybe you could have worked one in, but I don't know if you really needed to do it. At X Little Nick X 365, do you think Jake should have been the $1 million champion instead of Virgil? Yes. Fuck yes. That was a good feud. Him and DiBiase. At Larikaner, do you think Jake the Snake has a name for his penis? Maybe the Liga? Any of you cokeheads know what I'm talking about. I don't know. Name for his penis. Probably Mephistopheles, who knows. At Tyreek215, who would win in an all-out crackdown brawl for all, Matt Hardy or Jake the Snake? Jake the Snake would have buried him in his prime, period. At Charlie, your most memorable Jake the Snake moment other than the wedding skit. I would say when he DDT'd Steamboat on the concrete back in '86. I believe that was in Providence, Rhode Island. Putting the snake on Jimmy Hart after his match with Honky Tonk Man at WrestleMania 3 would be another one. When he came out from backstage to attack Rick Rude, who was going after his wife. When he came out and yanked Rick Rude's pants off because Rick Rude had Cheryl's face on there. There are a lot of memorable moments involving Jake the Snake. At Mr. Nice Hangover 1. Imagine a Piper's Pit with Jake the Snake, Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, Mankind, The Rock, Stone Cold, and DX from the 97-98 timeframe. How would you book that? I tell him you got as much time as you want, as much time as you need. You can do what you want. You can do what you need. You know what to do. Just go let the magic happen. I mean, what more would you need to do? Think about all those names that you just mentioned there. It would maybe even get to be a point of train wreck because it'd be too much awesome if that's possible. At Jamie Ennis NZ, how many different snakes did Jake use over his career? I'm not sure of the exact number, but I'm sure there are a ton of them. It wasn't just like one Damien or one Lucifer, and then you figure all the snakes he used on the Independence tour over the years. So I'm sure it's in the hundreds. I'm pretty sure. At MacDog714, what were your thoughts on the 99 Heroes of Wrestling pay-per-view and the incident when Jake showed up drunk? Oh, God. Bad. Train wreck bad to where it's borderline awesome, like completely awesome. The worst pay-per-view maybe in the history of professional wrestling. Oh, God. Heroes of Wrestling. Well, it's been a long time since I've watched the whole thing. Maybe some point in time this year I'll sit down and watch the whole thing again. Maybe I'll do a review of it. Who knows? Do you think Jake could have gotten over in the 80s without the DDT? Why or why not? Yes, he didn't need the DDT to get over because he was a great in-ring and crowd psychologist, and he could talk. He had that look about him. He had that mystique. He had that it factor. He was a tremendous character. The DDT was just another layer to that. If Jake didn't have the DDT as his finisher, he could have still gotten over like $1 million regardless. And what were your thoughts when Earthquake crushed Damien? I was crushed. You know, it was such a good job of feeding on our emotions, especially as kids. This was something that clearly meant a lot to Jake the Snake Roberts. And Earthquake smashed Damien, and Jake sat there with that pain expression because he couldn't do anything. And the way they sold it was magnificent. That's how you create a real serious issue, and that's how you build a feud. Just little things like that, outstanding. But at the time, I was very pissed, and I was excited and geeked when he brought out Lucifer, because that's Damien's big brother, and family is just not something you mess with. Just awesome. At Ethan M. 1834, what can Jake the Snake teach this generation of wrestlers? He can teach them how to do more with less. He can teach them that it's not always what you do, but it's how you do it, when you do it, where you do it, and why you do it, and what you do it for. He could definitely help them on the mic. He could help them in terms of character development. He could help them in terms of figuring out how to get themselves over. He could also help them by advising them against doing some of the things that he did during his career. A lot of ways that Jake the Snake Roberts could still give back to the professional wrestling business if anybody would let him. At Outrider 18 asks, which one is bigger, Batista's dick or Damien? Ask Melina. She might say Batista's dick. Who knows? That's 77 T-Dog Night. What did you think of the Jake the Snake Roberts Rick Martel feud at WrestleMania 7 blindfold match? I loved it. Adkins blinded Jake the Snake. And what time was the Brother Love segment? In Jake's glasses, he got the contact. He looks all fucked up. And that WrestleMania 7 blindfold match was awesome. Just the whole time they're both covered and Jake's pointing and the crowd's going on. I mean, one of my favorite WrestleMania matches ever, period. Brings a smile to my face just thinking about it. They didn't even have to do much, but it was still a match that really worked. And that's because Jake the Snake and Rick Martel made it really work, and especially Jake the Snake. Outstanding. It really accentuated Jake's strength of psychology. He got it. He understood it. Man, incredible. At Piznick64, Jake the Snake Roberts versus Stone Cold the Texas Rattlesnake versus the Viper Randy Orton. Who's the best snake? The best at finding a gopher hole and lathering bait oil on himself and getting construction worker beards and sleeve tattoos and raging ring boners is the Viper Randy Orton. The best psychologist, the best on the mic, Jake the Snake Roberts. The best overall, the Texas Rattlesnake, Stone Cold Steve Austin. At Roberts X18, should WWE take Jake's offer to work with guys on the promos? Yes, fucking yes. What could it hurt? Oh my god, they might get better. At Nebek Sid, how much did Beyond the Mat hurt Jake's career and image, etc.? I don't know if it's hurt his career because he did a lot to hurt his own career, but it did hurt his image. It did hurt his image. And it's kind of a shame, too, because this is a guy that's a legend. He's a great, and a lot of people, unfortunately, think about him for the drug use and the alcohol and all of that other stuff, and that's sad. And he did it to himself. But to be fair, this was stuff that was already kind of out there a few years before then, the WWF, when he made his second run back in '96. So people already kind of knew about this stuff, but it was taken to a whole different level and a whole new audience on Beyond the Mat. Because a lot of people remember Jake the Snake from the '80s, and when they saw what he'd become, they're like, "Oh, good Christ!" Where would Jake be without DDP Yoga? Probably still an addict, maybe dead. Who knows? It's tremendous to see what he's been able to do. It's tremendous to see what DDP has done to help his friend, and see what DDP Yoga has done for him. Oh, no question about it. At Dynasty 215, Damien or Lucifer? While Lucifer was the big brother, I got to go with Damien, because when you think of Jake the Snake Roberts, ultimately, you think of Damien. I grew up more so on Damien than I did Lucifer, so I always side with Damien. At Andyman32, if Jake Roberts was given a backstage role at any wrestling promotion, what would it be and where? I'll just say each of the three promotions could use him. ROH, head booker, easy. TNA, same. WWE agent, specifically designed to work with the Intercontinental and United States champions, helping work with young guys at the mid-card level, trying to establish themselves and maybe move themselves up the card. And then I would have him teach the promo classes. That's what I'd do. At BW Rosas, his questions finish out this pay-per-view. What was your thought and reaction when Jake ended up in WCW back in '92? I'm surprised. A good surprise. I was just surprised. I didn't see it coming as a kid. And I thought him and Sting, I thought that was awesome. Shame it didn't really happen much after that, but I thought it was going to be a good thing for WCW at that time, and I was excited to see it. Who do you think Jake could have feuded with in WWF had he not left in '92 for WCW? Could have feuded with Flair. Could have feuded with Perfect. Could have had a great piece of business, in my opinion, with Bret the Hitman Hart. Helped make Bret a big-time star. Later on down the road, maybe he could have feuded with the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, and Diesel, and Kevin Nash. You could have had a longer feud or another feud between him and Taker. He could have feuded with Yokozuna, or a lot of things. There are so many different people he could have feuded with, and it would have been awesome. No question about it. Thanks to all of you again that submitted your questions for this hashtag Jake the Snake Q&A. Feel free to share your favorite matches or memories or moments from Jake the Snake's career. Next week, the topic again, hashtag Elimination Chamber. It's about Elimination Chambers past, this year's, futures, whatever the case might be. Go to Twitter, tweet your questions using that hashtag to add off the rope show. You can start tweeting those questions out Monday after Raw. Please wait until Monday after Raw so that way those questions don't get Triple H'd. And what do I mean by Triple H? That means they get buried. Ugh. So thanks again for watching. Thanks for sending in your questions. I'll talk to you later.